Hello, everybody. It's good to be with you. So, I want to talk to you today about a condition that I call terminal uniqueness. And terminal uniqueness, in the way that I'm going to speak of it here, means that I'm just a wee bit oversold on my own intelligence and my own mind and how it operates and all this. I actually get a pretty good bit of this. Because I get a lot of scientists of all kinds of just every stripe, a lot of engineers of different orders, and I get physicists and philosophy professors and all kinds of everybody here. And what I notice is that the people who don't have any trouble really getting what I'm doing and waking up earlier in a session rather than later. See, it's beneficial to wake up earlier because then I can help you orient. It's not as beneficial to fight me the whole way through and wake up in the last 10 minutes. Because if I don't have another appointment, I may run a little long with you to help you sort of orient, but I can't run but so long. It's on you then to get clarity sessions, and a lot of people don't get clarity sessions, and a lot of people don't sustain what they gain, right? That's just, we're languaging here. There's no gain, but it could be considered a gain by ego. That's what ego will nonetheless. I know there's no ego, but I notice that there's still something operating over here that sure as hell smells like one. So these people think they're too smart for what I do. They really want an intellectual viewpoint, and that's perfectly fine. They need to go to intellectual teachers, and when they're done with them, they can come over here and wake up. See, that's the truth. That's really what happens. Is almost nobody discovers me right away. They go through some other teachers, and that who are have a more attractive past, or they're more attractive physically, or they're whatever they got a better voice. Hell, that's almost anybody. And so they go through them, and they get help, but they get help that moves them up the road, which is what that teacher's practice is designed to do. And then it stops, because that teacher's teaching is not designed to take you beyond that place where you get stuck. It's to take you from zero to stuck. And when you get stuck, you will probably try another teacher, and you will move a little further down the road, and then you'll get stuck again. A little further down the road with another teacher, and then you get stuck again. And when you're sick and tired of being stuck, then you'll come here. But it won't do you much good to come here if you come here as the most brilliant guy on the planet, or woman on the planet. But I can't say or woman, but I do notice that men seem to have this worse than women do. That's just, I'm sorry, guys, but that's just the way I live. I just think that generally speaking, men are more arrogant about their intelligence than women are. Women may be a little bit more that way when it comes to beauty, because that's what we accentuate. But with men, I mean, we're only so attractive. God, we better be smart. So I've had a couple of examples recently that I can point out so that you realize that this is a genuine thing, and that it's not and that it's really specific to a type. So I had an email from a physician about sometime this week, and he was talked to me. He's watched these videos. He's read my book. I guess he's read my books. I don't know. I know that he's swallowed as much of this, some of this teaching, and but he hadn't swallowed enough, because he wanted to tell me, I'm scared to book a session because I'm afraid that I might fool myself and into thinking that I'm waking up or something and not really be awake. And then, oh my God, and what he didn't say was and he should have put it in parentheses, was that, and then I would be embarrassed. we're more afraid of embarrassment than we are of going through the rest of our lives not knowing who the hell we are. Go figure. But I was the smartest guy in the world, and I knew AA was set up for all these other yahoos, but not for me. I mean, a big intellectual guy like me, I mean, I knew much more about most everything, and I'm sure I knew much more about how to get well, because hell, they showed me these 12 steps that clearly had nothing to do with quitting drinking. And so I didn't bother to do them. I mean, they weren't related, and I didn't get sober. And I didn't get sober. And actually, I quit haunting AA after I went a few times, and I've just said, you know, there's nothing there. There's nothing there for me. But when the suffering got just too bad, that I couldn't not use my last opportunity to get better, that's when I went to AA, and actually went to AA and decided, you know what, this time is it. I don't care how many times I've quit, how many times I've said that, this time really is it. And I did feel there was a difference, and there was. So I got dumb enough to get sober. That's what happened. That's what really happened. As it was a teachable moment, meaning that I'm dumb enough to trust you to not screw me, but be willing to be screwed just in case you are a treacherous person. But to be betrayed by you is better than being betrayed by me. That's kind of the way it felt. So I also have recently had a session with an engineer. He's probably going to watch this. He's a nice guy. But he also had this terminally unique thing. And we call it terminally unique just simply because when you come into a 12-step program, if you don't fit in to this place where you've got to fit in to at least some degree, then you're going to die probably. You know, I mean, you might, there's other ways to get sober, but I noticed that very few find them. And there are, I mean, percentage-wise, it doesn't make any difference whether it's AA or some church group or some professional organization with a you know, with a center or something. Very few people, percentage-wise, actually recover. I mean, that's the hard truth of it. And if you look around in life, it's the same thing with awakening. Very few people succeed. Very few, so to speak. Nobody actually succeeds, but let's just say awakening doesn't occur through the vast majority of units who attempt to have awakening occur. Who attempt to, I should say, make awakening occur. So you can't fix the mind with the mind, but you can use the mind to keep luck, grace, odds, whatever, from being in your favor enough for awakening to occur. In other words, you can just be too damn smart. And the funny thing is, as I have told both these people to help them try to come to, because I mean, the engineers are just like I was, smartest guy in the world. Smartest guy in the world can't wake up. And I tried everything, and I tried everything, and I tried everything, and guess what? It lasted very. I mean, just very late in the game, he actually did wake up, which was wonderful. And it was very wonderful for him. It was wonderful for me, and I don't know where he stands right now, because when you wake up, you have got to be willing to push on. Because as I've told you, not more than 1,000 times, but probably not many less than 1,000 times, is that your initial awakening, that's the most important thing, a step that's ever going to be taken in your spiritual story, so to speak. But it's not enough. It's not the end of spirituality. It's the beginning of the authentic spiritual journey, is what it really is. So when you believe that you're too smart for what I'm doing, because see, the thing is, let's look. I mean, it's incredible, because what we're really talking about here, what are we talking about? We're talking about terminal arrogance, right? That's what we're talking about, is terminal arrogance. Actually, I like that term better than I do terminal uniqueness for this. Yeah, I really do. So I might use that as the title of this video. If you see that as the title, you'll know this is where I came up with that bright idea. So they come to me and they say, you know, I think I'm just too smart. Well, I'm so analytical. You know, I'm so scientific. You know, I can't help but be skeptical. And when I hear that one, I say, well, okay, I have no problem whatsoever with your being skeptical. But for the next hour and a half, I'd like for you to be skeptical about what you're thinking instead of what I'm doing. Question your thoughts and not my actions. And for just 90 minutes. And then you can go back to being, you know, king of the world as far as I'm concerned. But I'd like to give you your money's worth, right? So, but when you're too smart, then what happens is that what you find out that what I do is pretty silly, because it's very simple stuff. I mean, you should be able to tell by the kind of videos that I do that you're not going to get the intellectual thing over here. You come to satsang, you hear some of it, right? But it's not going to be in these videos. You're not going to hear much of it, and you're certainly not going to hear it in awakening sessions, because all that brainiac stuff that you've been trying for 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 years, let's just notice, please, that it does not work, okay? And that's not writing off all other teachers and teachings. It's just saying that your mind cannot rescue your mind. You can wake up spontaneously, but that's just grace or luck or whatever you want to call it. It's not. There's not that there's actually cause and effect to anything, but there's absolutely even no sign of it when awakening comes about that way. And even if it does come about that way, you are still going to have to clear. And I know that's no fun, but that's the truth of it. But the hell, I'm getting, you know, putting the cart before the horse. So come, if you like, whether you come, and it doesn't make any difference whether it's to me. I'm using me as an example because that's the example I know best. But like I said, I had this disease, and so when I approached an AA book or an AA person or or an AA slogan or an AA meeting or whatever, I just was, suspicious that it just wouldn't work for me. And what happens is that can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And in those circles, it most often does, and it's most often fatal. So in this situation, what will happen is it's fewer and fewer people are escaping me, but it could still be done. And but if you go to a non-dual book and you pick it up and it says you are not the body, and you say what I said, which is that's bullshit, that can't be true. Well, you may as well take that book back to the bookstore and get a refund or an exchange, because if you go at defending your own position, you can't get something new while defending your old position. And obviously, if you've been on this path for some time, bright as you are, there's something you don't know or something that you have not seen in the proper light. And one of the things that drives people crazy when they come to me, because they understand all this intellectually, it's just not their experience, is that that I go through these just silly inquiries and stuff, right? I mean, a child could do these inquiries with me. I make them to where the points are absolutely unmissable. And the reason I do that is, number one, because it works. And number two is that I don't want it to just be clear. I don't want you to just wake up. I want you to undeniably wake up. because I already know what I talked about in the last video. I already know that conditioning, reflexive conditioning, is going to come in and it's going to cause doubt. It happens to everybody. Ramana Maharshi said doubt's the last thing to go, and hell he should know, right? So, but it does go if you hang around long enough, just so you know, it does go. There is conviction at the end of the rainbow. And, you know, I have people who fuss, oh, Brad, I've been awake 2 months and I'm still not like Nisargadatta. Well, I guess the hell not, right? Possibly, you know, he had other exposure going in. It's certainly a completely different bundle of conditioning that it's going through. But it's this terminal arrogance that says, I should be as clear as Adyashanti or Muji or Rupert Spire or whoever it is that you're watching, Jim Newman, whatever. And these things, they tell you, your mind just lies to you like this. And the thing is that we love to believe it. See, it's not just that the mind says that, it's the fact that we love to believe it, because then we are the special ones. And that's what we've come to enlightenment for. Only reason I wanted to get to enlightenment was as an ad for Fred, so that Fred could then be even cooler than he was to begin with, if you can imagine something like that. And that having gained enlightenment and added that to Fred's bag of tricks, then I could get some money and some girls. Don't you just love that lofty goal, right? For that lofty motivation. But that's the way it was here. I mean, I was dealing with a really, really sick guy, you know? I mean, I really, really was. Even in AA, I used to tell people, I used to say, you know, so when we would be talking about life recovery, and I would say, you know, this is good, all good. And I wasn't trying to be terminally unique. This is when I was trying to fit in. But I did want me to understand things, which is that just because this guy went from 0 to getting all his stuff and his wife and his life back in 6 months, that guy had been out of line for 2 years. I had been out of line for 20. I had been drunk for 20 years. And so I had burned my entire life down. And I actually burned down my life prior to alcoholism. I mean, I started burning down my life when I was about 12 years old. And who knows, you know, just weird conditioning, mental illness, whatever it was. But I started burning down my life about 12 years old, and I went ahead and continued with that practice for 35 years. So I used to say, you know, you guys at least are starting out on level ground. I'm starting out in a hole compared to where you guys are starting out. And what that meant to me was that I can't take it less seriously than they do. I got to take it more seriously. I can't, I do, they have probably got the wherewithal to be skeptical about this stuff and still recover. I don't. And I bought everything about it, hook, line, and sinker. And in a couple of months, I will have been sober for 20 years. So I just say that for the sake of you who are out there wondering. I get a lot of email about, can I wake up instead of quitting drinking? I mean, that's the real question. It's not asked that way, but that's the real question. And the answer is no. Can I wake up instead of taking my psychoactive meds? Not in my experience. And I have seen very good, very clear clients become convinced that they don't need their and this is one of them. But the difference was that when I went off my meds years back, then I told Betsy about it, and she complained about what the unit was doing, and I went back to it. Once again, I was not terminally arrogant. I realized that even though I, the awakened internet spiritual teacher, was the, you know, the one of the most special beings on our planet, as far as my own assessment was at the time, that even I might need help psychologically or psychiatry through chemistry, better living through better chemistry. And so I went to, I told Betsy about it, and then she told me a little later, it's time for you to get back on your meds. And I didn't fight. Well, I did. I actually did sort of push back and fight, but I pushed back for a week or two, and then she was right. So I take meds today, not because of me. I take meds because my wife's life is more comfortable. I was actually okay. That's the way it felt. So I used to tell her, well, I can see the unit's depressed, but I'm fine. But she's told me that the only thing I got to deal with is the unit. So please get back. So considering yourself, yeah, it really is better, this terminal arrogance. Because considering that you're so different and so special, and then enlightenment for you is going to be so different and so special because it's going to happen to you, that you don't need to sober up, you don't need to go to a psychologist, you don't need to, you can come off your meds, you can do this, you can do that, all this stuff is horseshit. And there are people out there actively selling it. But I'm not saying that what they're teaching can't be helpful. I'm just saying what I always said is that I'm a large numbers guy. I want to go where the most people are getting the most out of whatever it is they're doing. I want my percentages to be high. The percentages here are high, but the percentages here are cut down before you get to me, and it doesn't mean I still can't wake you up. I can, but here's the real killer, is that it's going to stop you from seeking help. It stopped me. I was awake 3 years before I would have had the nerve to contact a teacher, because I was so afraid that they were going to tell me that I wasn't awake. And my story was, I am awake, and this is great, and I don't want it spoiled, because I'm very special inside my own house. Now, it's still crazy as a bat out of hell if I walked out the door, but in my house, I could tell, well, this is it. So, I've woken up. I'm doing this. I'm doing this for the sake of all you brainiacs out there. Just understand that people who are not brainiacs, at least minor brainiacs, I mean, the people who are not quite smart, do not write me. So if you are a very, very smart person, you're my typical client. You're not special. And that would be the same thing with any other teaching or any other application, whether it's videos or books or anything like that. Just be open, for God's sake. In recovery, they have a saying also of how do you get sober? Well, HOW, honesty, openness, and willingness, and the same thing applies here. The end result of getting properly involved, I hate to say studying, but studying, practicing, whatever it is, getting involved with non-duality. The end result of that is quite different than the end result of going into a 12-step group or some other group and trying to get sober. The end result is quite different, but the process is really similar. And we could say that, and this is no insult, because I did it myself, and I'm still very pleased to be sober for nearly 20 years, is that I can't remember what I was going to say. I get so carried away with my side stories. I guess you've noticed this by now. Look, you get what you get. I just can't help it. I don't have something that I'm going to say. I try to get, Betsy's out and I've got the house to myself, and all I can do is cut on the computer and see if video guy is around, because I cannot cut videos every day. I just can't. I mean, I'm just not. Video guy is not around. It takes a certain outgoing thing that's not here all the time, right? So when I cut it down, I always do the best I can, and you get stuck with it. And it seems to be pleasing an awful lot of you, so I will not change my modus operandi, chiefly because I can't, because there's no one here to have a modus operandi, right? This is the way it's unfolding, and I'm going to go with it, and I'm going to recommend that you go with it, particularly if you don't want to suffer. So smart people can wake up if they're willing to temporarily get dumb enough to see the truth. The problem is that this thing is so simple and so obvious that it's very difficult to see, and it's impossible to grasp. I had a student yesterday who, yesterday I had a couple of interesting things. I had one student saying, God, they asked me a complex question. I gave them the simplest answer imaginable. And they went, oh, yeah, God Almighty. He said, I just can't believe how simple it is. But it jerked him right back into clarity. And we had a great conversation. As a student, I like him very much. And I also had a client yesterday that looked at me and said, my brain, or yesterday, day before, that said, my brain is not actually getting this. And I said, yeah, and your brain is never going to get it. And that's the problem, is that this thing is not about the brain. We got to use the brain to go beyond the brain. But if we use the brain to go to the brain, we ain't going to go beyond it. You got to be reasonably intelligent, or you're not going to be drawn to these teachings to begin with. But if you were drawn to these teachings, you are almost certainly intelligent enough to wake up. The real problem is not the low end of the spectrum; it's the high end of the spectrum, where we get with the least the people who believe that they are really, really smart, and they're so smart that they can't see the truth. Because it's not at the end of an equation, right? Or it's not at the end of 40 years of meditation. It's not the end of 2 years in the jungle in Thailand, right? I mean, just that we assign all these things that's what we got to do before we wake up. And guess what? If you assign those things, you got to do that before you wake up. It's just the way it happens. People wake up with me and sometimes they go, oh my God, I've just wasted so much time. And I was asking them, who wasted it? And what time, tell me what time you've wasted. Because in the absence of a character, you can't even experience time. There's no time. Time's a concept we won't go into now. We'll get lost again. So let me cut it short, or at least I don't know how long it was, but let me cut it now before we go any further. And wish you happy holidays and all of that stuff. This happens to be being cut in a few days before Christmas in 2019. Also want to mention that two things. So here's the if you're not interested in the promo aspect of this video, cut it off now, because it's going to be a short promo. But the promo is that I cut these videos on a regular basis. There are over 200 of them. If you like this teaching, if you can hear this teaching, if you think you're going to be able to hear this teaching, subscribe to the channel and don't miss these videos. Don't watch every one of them. They're all clear. I swear to you. I watch them too, because this thing, what comes out of this thing, this is my teacher too. That's the truth. Well, it's not always that way, but it is now. Come to satsang. For God's sake, avail yourself of satsang. I get all of these questions on YouTube. I get all of these emails. I get comments on the website, not so many of those, but loads through YouTube and loads of emails. Help me. Or what should I do? Like, I have really got time in my day to sit down and write 300 emails telling everybody what they should be doing, right? It ain't there. And it's not my job to save you. It's your job to save you. You can utilize this as part of it, but it's not my responsibility. It's your responsibility, so to speak. We're just languaging. Come to satsang. 5 at a time. It's not expensive. It's not expensive to do it 1 at a time, but 5 at a time it gets cheaper. It will change your life. I mean, you'll find 25 to 30, well, somewhere between 25 and 40 or so awakened beings, or who are awake, but not always bright, not always brightly awake. They're in oscillation. They are in confusion, whatever, because post-awakening, if it ain't nothing else, it's confusing, isn't it? You can come in there, and I don't care whether you're awake or not awake, it doesn't make any difference. You can come in there and you can, and it can and will change your life. I had a client this week, this is true. Hello, Michael. And that I've been worked with over some of the summer and all of the fall. And this guy was a despondent being when he got to me. Just very, very despondent. I mean, it was just, he looked like he'd already died. I told Betsy, I said, I think he may be terminal. I mean, I thought he might have terminal cancer or something like this. I swear to God, because it was just, he just looked so shrunken, and he looked very, very old and very, very sad and very, very stern. And he didn't look very, very open, but he had to be pretty open or he wouldn't have contacted me. I talked to this guy either yesterday or the day before. Let me see, which was it? As if it matters to you, but it just matters to me. Okay, it was the day, but not yesterday, it was Thursday. And I talked to that guy. But before I even got to talk to him, when the screen opened up, you could see, I mean, he's been, the last time we had a clarity session, he woke up in his awakening session and he kind of went back to, and then he slowly moved back into the dream. And he was pretty well stuck. Then we had a fairly successful clarity session where I could see there was real movement. And the next clarity session that we had was really excellent. He woke back up and he was clear as a bell. And yesterday, when the screen opened up, here is this guy. He looks 15 years younger. He does not look like he's got a terminal illness. He is smiling. It was fantastic. It made my whole day. It really did. When I got off the thing, I said, my God, I can't believe it. And Betsy was over here and she couldn't either, right? I mean, it's just the changes that can come about. That wasn't just through satsang, that was through sessions too, but sessions are expensive. If you're not reasonably well-to-do, you're probably not going to be able to have a whole lot of sessions with me, but you can come to satsang. Come to satsang. If you can afford sessions, great. I'd love to talk to you, but if you can't, that's fine. Come to satsang. Come to satsang. Read the book. If you're going to read a bunch of books, you come to me and you say, I've read about 100 books, and then I say, do you read mine? No. So if you haven't had an awakening, try a couple of my books, like The Book of Undoing or Awaken Now. And with any luck, you can wake up straight from them. People do it all the time. I get emails. You can, the Awaken, that's The Book of Undoing and Awaken Now. What is it? The Book of Unknowing and the Book of Unveiling, they're about clearing. So if you're in post-awakening, but you're having some difficulty clearing, and there's some stuff in there about awakening, but it's mostly post-awakening stuff, then read those. And I don't make a fortune on books. I'm here to spread this teaching. And you know why I'm here? because I can't not be. And you know why I've had this commercial announcement? Because I can't not. This awakening occurred through a unit that was not bashful about self-promoting 10 years ago when it started, or 9 years ago when it started teaching. And that's the reason I'm not in my living room and you never heard of me, is because there was a willingness to self-promote, because the whiteness could give a damn about the ego. If the ego gets a little something out of it, whiteness does not care. All a whiteness is after is efficiency. That's all it's after. Okay, so I've done enough. I've probably done too much damage here. I apologize for this long diatribe. I did not know that was going to happen. I never know what's going to happen when I cut on the camera. I cut on the camera today. I saw that Video Guy was in the house, and I've changed the name of this video from Terminal Uniqueness to Terminal Arrogance. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.